Before every NBA season, every single player and team has a set of expectations. These expectations come about based on prior production, expected improvement, any signings, trades, departures, or draft picks made in the offseason by the teams, and after taking all of this into account, most fans usually get a general idea of how good or bad a team should be. However, when the season starts, everything that seems apparent on paper goes out the window, and all that matters is what the players and teams actually do out on the court. The Dallas Mavericks were a team coming into this season with a ton of hype, and for good reason, with many expecting them to take the leap into contender status after a highly successful season last year with a lot to grow off of. And yet, through 21 games this season, things could not be going further in the opposite direction, as they have been struggling a ton. This brings us to the topic of today's video, where we'll be discussing what exactly has been going wrong for them so far, what happened to get them to this point, and whether or not it's worth panicking over, or if they'll be able to turn things around as the season progresses. Before we start though, it turns out about 67% of you watching right now aren't even subscribed to the channel, so please, if you enjoy the content, consider hitting the subscribe button, as not only does it help out a ton, but I would also very much appreciate it. Now with that being said, let's begin. Ever since Luka Doncic got drafted, he and the Mavericks have been on a fast upward trajectory through the league. In just his second season last year, Luka was putting up numbers we really haven't ever seen before from someone at his age, being just 20 years old, nearly averaging a triple-double and putting up 29 points per game. The hype around him has grown exponentially in this span, and many see him as the future face of the NBA. And honestly, you can't even blame people for thinking this way, because he's genuinely one of the most promising young stars we've seen in quite some time. Last season, the Mavericks finished the year literally ranked as the most efficient offense in NBA history, with an offensive rating of 115.9 points per 100 possessions scored, breaking the record previously set by that historically great Golden State Warriors team led by Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and the rest of the crew. They had the one-man wrecking crew that Luka was, capable of getting any shot he wanted out on the floor, while also setting up those around him for easy looks when the defense focused too much on shutting him down, and with the plethora of knockdown shooters around him on the team last year, it resulted in that record getting broken. Despite technically being the best offense the league has ever seen, they were only the 7th seed in the playoffs, and after putting up a good fight, they did eventually get eliminated by the Clippers in the first round. But after all of that, they were carrying a ton of positive momentum into this season, which is why many thought they would be a great team this year. They went into this past offseason with one clear objective, which was improving the defense, because while they were easily the best offense in the league, they only ranked 17th in the league on the other end of the floor. In order to address this issue, they made moves such as trading away sharpshooter Seth Curry in exchange for Josh Richardson, sacrificing perimeter shooting for perimeter defense that Josh brings, and they also brought in players like Willie Cauley-Stein and James Johnson to try to shore up the frontcourt depth. They didn't make any big moves necessarily, but on paper, the ones they did make should have improved the team in the areas that they were weakest, and yet here we are 20 games into the season, and things are going completely wrong for them. So why is that? Well, just looking at where they stand at this point in time, after coming off of a historically productive offensive season, their play on offense has fallen off a cliff, as they now rank in the bottom third of the league offensively, with just the 21st best offense out of 30 teams. And that, combined with the fact that they also have declined defensively from a year ago, ranking just 19th overall in the league on that end of the floor, it's been a recipe for disaster, and their place in the standings demonstrates that. With a record of just 8 wins and 13 losses, the Mavericks currently have the 3rd worst record in the West, with the only 2 teams below them being the New Orleans Pelicans and Minnesota Timberwolves, and nobody on the team is happy about it at all. In an interview a few days ago, when asked about the current state of the team, Luka said, and I quote, that it's terrible. There's really not much to say right now. I never felt like this, and we've got to do something because this is not looking good. We've got to step up and talk to each other and play way better than this. It's mostly effort. Right now, it's looking like we don't care, honestly, if we win games or not. That's a pretty telling quote, questioning the effort level, chemistry, and overall attitude of the team. To follow up on that, Kristaps Porzingis also expressed something similar in an interview, saying, "We don't have that chemistry yet that we're looking for. We don't have our roles clear. We're just kind of out there playing. We're a talented group, but until we have everybody playing together and having some time off the court, I think we won't have that chemistry." Now, all of this may sound like excuses they're making, but that doesn't mean what they're saying isn't accurate though. A lot, and I mean a lot, of Mavericks players have missed time this season because of COVID protocols, with players like Josh Richardson missing 9 games, Maxi Kleber missing 11 games, Dwight Powell missing 9 games, Jalen Brunson missing 4 games, and Dorian Finney-Smith missing 9 games because of it. Plus, Kristaps Porzingis has been in and out of the lineup throughout the season as he's been dealing with trying to get back fully healthy after suffering a sprained knee in the bubble. So after all of this, can you really blame them for not being on the same page so far this year? Newcomers like Josh Richardson, who came into the team needing to play a certain role, needs to learn how to play alongside shot creators like Luka, and a lot of those names I mentioned that missed time are very important parts of the team's rotation. With that being said, though, it can only excuse so much, and Luka Doncic is definitely not blame-free in all of this. On paper, his averages of 29 points, 9 rebounds, and 9 assists per game are obviously very impressive, and in general he is playing quite well, but overall, he has taken a slight step backwards from a year ago as a player. Luka is an incredible, high-usage player with the ball in his hands a lot. He has the freedom to do what he wants and operate as he pleases, and he's earned the right to do so because of how good he is, but his decision-making at times has been kind of poor. He's starting to take a lot more bad shots, and especially from 3, he's getting worse to the point where you now can't excuse it. He's only making 29% of his 3-point shots, which is well below league average, and when you consider the fact that he shoots about 7 threes per game, that's a lot of possessions that end up getting wasted. I fully realize that the quality of his 3-point shots he takes are much more difficult than most because of his attempts mostly coming off the dribble in situations that he creates for himself, but he hasn't proven to be a good enough shooter at this point in time to justify taking that many threes, and that ultimately comes back to the decision-making thing that I said earlier. At the end of the day, he is still a young player, and even though he's putting up superstar numbers, he does still also have a lot to learn, and this rough patch I think will be good for him in the long run. On top of that, his running mate Kristaps Porzingis' decline in scoring production from a year ago has also definitely affected the team's overall effectiveness, as he's only been scoring about 18 points per game while hitting only 30% of his threes, which is definitely not the kind of production we're used to seeing from him either. Now, to summarize, yes, the Mavericks have been disappointing in the early going, but I definitely don't think it's time to panic for them by any means. This is still a highly talented team, and as the season progresses, they will develop that chemistry that they all admittedly lack at the moment. Are they title contenders? Probably not. However, I still firmly believe they'll be back in playoff contention sooner rather than later, and they'll be giving teams problems as the year goes on. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what you think the Mavs need to do to turn things around this year. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.